Captain Jake Morrison pressed his face against the cold window of his ship's bridge. Outside in the dark space, he could see the alien ships floating like silent guards around Earth's solar system. The ships were huge and silver, with strange, blue lights that never stopped glowing. They had been there for 3 long years now. Watching and waiting, Jake rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the screen showing his ship's location. The used Defiance was stuck at the edge of human space. Just like every other human ship, aliens from the Galactic Council had built an invisible wall around all the planets where humans lived. They called it a protective quarantine, but Jake knew better. These men and women had become like family to him over the past 3 years. They all shared the same anger and frustration about being trapped in their own home system. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez looked up from his computer screen. His face was pale from spending too much time under artificial lights. "They want us to turn around and go back to Earth." Jake nodded slowly. The Council always sent the same boring message. They said humans needed to learn how to be peaceful before they could join the other alien races. But Jake had seen the Council's own ships. They carried enough weapons to destroy entire planets. "Any word from Ambassador Carter?" Jake asked. Sam shook his head. "Nothing new, sir. She's still on the Council station trying to talk to them, but they keep giving her the same answers. They say humanity needs to evolve beyond our aggressive nature."
Ow.
Jake wanted to laugh, but it wasn't funny anymore. Lisa Carter had been trying to negotiate with the Council for 2 years. She was smart and patient, speaking their language and following their customs. But the aliens treated her like a child asking for something she couldn't have. The truth was that the Council was afraid of humans. Jake could see it in the way their ships positioned themselves, always ready to run away if humans got too close. Other alien races had joined the Council by asking nicely and following orders. Humans had tried to do the same thing, but something about them made the Council nervous. A young officer named Ben Walsh approached Jake with a datapad. "Captain, we've been monitoring the trade routes. The Council ships are still blocking all commerce heading toward human space. Our colonies are running low on medical supplies and rare metals." This was the real problem. Earth had many colonies on different planets and space stations. These places needed supplies from other worlds to survive. The Council's blockade was slowly strangling human civilization. People were getting sick because they couldn't get medicine. Factories were shutting down because they couldn't get materials. Jake took the datapad and studied the numbers. The situation was getting worse every month. The Mars colonies were especially hard hit. They depended on trade with other systems for almost everything they needed. Now families were struggling to find enough food and clean water. "What about the smuggling runs?" Jake asked quietly. Ben glanced around to make sure no one else was listening. "Commander Phillips on Mars is still organizing them. Her people have been sneaking supplies through the blockade using small ships and hidden routes. But it's dangerous work, and the Council is getting better at catching them." Kate Phillips was a hero to many humans. She had been a regular military officer before the quarantine started. Now she led a secret network of brave people who risked their lives to bring needed supplies to human colonies. The Council would probably kill anyone they caught smuggling, but Kate's people kept trying anyway. Jake handed the datapad back to Ben. "Tell Commander Phillips that we support her efforts. If she needs anything from us, she just has to ask." Duh. Bridge door opened, and Dr. Alex Thompson walked in. He looked excited about something, which was unusual. Alex spent most of his time in the lower levels of the ship, working in his makeshift laboratory. He was trying to understand alien technology by taking apart pieces of Council equipment that humans had managed to collect. "Jake, I need to show you something," Alex said, holding up a small device that flickered with green light. "I've been working on that communication array we salvaged from the Council probe last month." Jake followed Alex to a quiet corner of the bridge. Alex was brilliant, but he sometimes got carried away with his discoveries. Still, his work had helped humanity survive the quarantine. He had figured out how to make human machines work better by copying alien designs. "I found something strange in the probe's memory banks," Alex whispered. "There are files about other species that went through quarantines like ours. But here's the weird part. I can't find any records of those species existing anymore." Felt a cold chill run down his back. "What do you mean?" I mean, they're gone, Jake. Completely gone. The council put them in quarantine just like us, and then they disappeared from all records. It's like they never existed. This information hit Jake like a punch to the stomach. Council had been telling humans that quarantine was for their own protection. They said it was temporary, just until humans learned to be more peaceful. But if other species had been quarantined and then vanished, maybe the council had different plans. Are you sure about this? Jake asked. Alex nodded firmly. I've checked the data 3 times. The council finds a species they don't like, puts them in quarantine, and then makes them disappear. I think we're next on their list. Jake looked out the window again at the council ships. They suddenly seemed much more threatening than before. The aliens weren't protecting humanity from the galaxy. They were protecting the galaxy from humanity. And when they decided humans were too dangerous to exist, the quarantine would become something much worse. How long do you think we have? Jake asked. I don't know, Alex replied. But I found references to something called Project Cleanup in the probe's files. The data is encrypted, but the timing suggests it's connected to our quarantine. Jake made a decision that would change everything. Alex, I want you to share this information with Commander Phillips and anyone else in our network, but be careful about it. If the council finds out we know their real plans, they might decide to act sooner. Alex agreed and hurried back to his laboratory. Jake remained on the bridge, staring at the alien ships and thinking about what this meant for humanity. The council had made a serious mistake by giving humans 3 years to think and prepare. Humans were good at adapting to difficult situations. They were also very good at fighting when their survival was threatened. The other alien races had probably accepted their fate when the council came for them. They had followed orders and hoped for mercy, but humans were different. They had spent the quarantine years learning, building, and getting stronger. If the council wanted to destroy humanity, they were going to discover that humans wouldn't go quietly. Jake smiled for the first time in weeks. The council thought they were containing a dangerous species. They had no idea how dangerous humans could become when they had time to prepare for war. The aliens were about to learn a very painful lesson about underestimating their enemies. The quarantine was almost over, but not in the way the council expected. 3 months had passed since Dr. Alex Thompson first discovered the disturbing truth about the council's quarantine program. He had been working day and night in his underground laboratory, digging deeper into the alien communication systems and encrypted files. The small room was filled with the humming sound of machines and the blue glow of alien technology that he had. Carefully taken apart and rebuilt, Alex wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the screen in front of him. For weeks, he had been trying to break through the council's most protected communication channels. These were the secret messages that only high-ranking council members could send and receive. Finally, after countless hours of work, he had found a way inside their network. What he saw made his blood run cold. The messages were written in the council's official language, but Alex had learned enough to understand the basic meaning. Words Project Cleanup appeared over and over again in the files. There were also phrases like final containment protocols and sterilization procedures, but the most frightening part was a timeline that showed Earth marked for something, called complete resolution in just 6 months. Alex quickly copied all the information onto a secure data storage device. His hands were shaking as he worked. This was proof that the council wasn't planning to keep humans in quarantine forever. They were planning to kill every single human in the galaxy. He grabbed his jacket and ran through the underground tunnels. That connected his laboratory to the main communication center. The tunnels had been built during the early days of the quarantine, when humans realized they needed to hide their most important work from council surveillance satellites. When Alex reached the communication room, he found Captain Jake Morrison already there, talking to someone on a secure channel. Jake looked up as Alex burst through the door, holding the data device like it was a bomb about to explode. Jake, we need to talk right now, Alex said. Breathing heavily from his run through the tunnels, Jake finished his conversation and turned to face Alex. The captain's face was serious, as it had been for months now. The stress of the quarantine was wearing on everyone, but Jake carried the extra weight of knowing that millions of lives depended on the decisions he made. What did you find? Jake asked. Alex plugged the data device into the room's main computer. The screen filled with alien text and strange symbols. I finally broke into their high-level communications. Jake, we were right to be worried. The Council isn't just keeping us locked up. They're planning to kill us all. Jake studied the information on the screen. Even though he couldn't read the alien language, the charts and timelines were clear. Enough. How long do we have? 6 months, maybe less, Alex replied. They're calling it Project Cleanup. From what I can understand, they've done this before to other species. The quarantine is just the first step. They isolate a civilization, weaken it by cutting off trade and resources. And then they send in their war fleets to finish the job. Jake felt his anger growing as he looked at the evidence. The Council had been lying to humanity from the very beginning. All their talk about protecting the galaxy from human violence was just an excuse. They saw humans as a threat to their power, and they had decided that the only solution was complete genocide. Send this information to Commander Phillips on Mars, Jake ordered. She needs to know what we're dealing with. While Alex prepared the secure transmission, Jake opened a communication channel to Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez, who was currently on a reconnaissance mission near the outer edge of the solar system. Sam had been using a small, fast ship to watch Council fleet movements and gather intelligence about their activities. Sam, report your current status, Jake said into the communicator. Sam's voice came through clearly, despite the distance. Captain, I'm glad you called. I've been watching something very strange for the past week. Our new ships arriving at the Council staging area every day. Big ones. Much bigger than the patrol ships we've been seeing. Jake exchanged a worried look with Alex. What kind of ships? Battle cruisers, sir? Maybe even planet killers. I've counted at least 50 of them so far, and more keep coming. These aren't ships designed for peacekeeping or patrol duty. These are weapons of war. This news confirmed Alex's worst fears. The Council wasn't just planning to eliminate humanity. They were preparing for a massive military operation that would leave no survivors. The ships that Sam was describing could destroy entire planets from orbit. Sam, I need you to get closer and record everything you can, Jake ordered. But be extremely careful. They catch you, we'll lose our only source of information about their fleet movements. Understood, Captain? Oh. I'll stay hidden and keep watching. Jake closed the communication channel and turned back to Alex. How many people know about this information? Just us and the data I'm sending to Commander Phillips, Alex replied. I've been careful to keep this secret until we could figure out what to do with it. Good. We need to be very careful about who we tell. If the Council finds out that we know their real plans, they might decide to attack sooner than scheduled. The door to the communication room opened, and Ben Walsh entered, carrying a stack of reports from different human colonies. His face was grim, which had become normal for everyone working in the resistance movement. Captain, we've been getting reports from our contacts throughout human space, Ben said. The Council has been increasing their patrols and tightening the blockade. Several of Commander Phillips' smuggling ships have been intercepted and destroyed. The Council is definitely preparing for something big. Jake took the reports and quickly read through them. The pattern was clear. The Council was making sure that no humans could escape the solar system before their final attack. They were also cutting off the last remaining supply lines to human colonies, weakening them further. Before the killing began, there's something else, Ben continued. We've been monitoring Council communications in their public channels. They've been sending messages to other alien species about the human problem. It sounds like they're trying to convince the rest of the galaxy that we're too dangerous to be allowed to exist. This was another piece of the Council's plan. They wanted to make sure that no other alien species would try to help humanity when the attack began. By spreading propaganda about human violence and aggression, they were isolating Earth politically, as well as physically. Alex finished uploading the data to send to Commander Phillips. Jake, there's something else in these files that you need to know about. The Council has detailed records of at least 12 other species that went through the same process we're experiencing now. What happened to them? Completely wiped out. The Council has been doing this for hundreds of years. Whenever they find a species that shows too much independence or military potential, they eliminate it. We're just the latest target. Jake walked over to the small window that looked out onto the surface of the asteroid where their secret base was hidden. In the distance, he could see Earth shining like a blue jewel against the black of space. Billions of humans lived on that planet, going about their daily lives without knowing that their entire species had been marked for extinction. But there was something the Council didn't understand about humans. Unlike the other species they had destroyed, humans had a long history of fighting against impossible odds. They had survived ice ages, wars, diseases, and natural disasters. They had learned to adapt and overcome challenges that would have destroyed weaker civilizations. The Council had made a critical mistake by giving humanity 3 years to prepare. During that time, humans had been working, learning, and building. They had reverse-engineered alien technology and improved upon it. It had created secret networks and hidden bases throughout the solar system. Most importantly, they had united in a way that they never had before. "Alex, I want you to continue monitoring their communications," Jake said. "Learn everything you can about their attack plans and fleet movements. Ben, coordinate with our contacts on all the human colonies. Everyone needs to know what's coming, but they also need to stay calm and keep working on our preparations." "What about Ambassador Carter?" Ben asked. "Should we warn her?" Jake thought about Lisa Carter, still on the Council station trying to negotiate for humanity's freedom. She was walking into a trap, trying to reason with people who had already decided to commit genocide. But if they suddenly recalled her, the Council might become suspicious. Not yet, Jake decided. Lisa is smart. When the time comes, she'll figure out what's happening. For now, her presence on the Council station gives us valuable intelligence about their activities. As his crew members left to carry out their orders, Jake remained alone in the communication room. He looked at the alien text, scrolling across the computer screen, filled with plans for humanity's destruction. The Council thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would surrender when, faced with overwhelming force, they were about to discover just how wrong they were. Humans had spent 3 years in silence, but they hadn't been idle. They had been preparing for war. And when the Council finally made their move, they would find that their intended victims had become something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The news about Project Cleanup spread through the human resistance network like wildfire. Within hours of Dr. Alex Thompson's discovery, secret messages were being sent to every human colony, space station, and hidden base in the solar system. The message was simple but terrifying. The Council planned to kill every human, live in just a few months. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the main command center of the hidden asteroid base, watching as reports came in from across human space. The base had grown from a small communications station into the secret headquarters of humanity's survival effort. Dozens of people worked at computer terminals, coordinating with resistance cells on different worlds. Commander Kate Phillips appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from her hidden base on Mars. Her face was calm, but Jake could see the determination in her eyes. Kate had been fighting the Council's blockade for 3 years, and now she knew exactly what she was fighting against. "Jake, we've received your intelligence package," Kate said. "My people are already moving to the next phase of our preparations. We've been waiting for confirmation that the Council meant to destroy us, and now we have it." "What's the status of your network?" Jake asked. "Better than the Council realizes," Kate replied with a slight smile. "They think they've been fighting a small group of smugglers and troublemakers. They have no idea how many people are actually involved in our operations. Over the past 3 years, Kate had built something amazing. What started as a few people sneaking supplies past Council blockades had grown into a vast underground network. Miners, factory workers, ship mechanics, and even some government officials were secretly working together to prepare for war. The Council had made a serious mistake by giving humans so much time to organize. Most alien species would have spent 3 years asking for mercy or looking for ways to escape. Humans had spent 3 years getting ready to fight. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez contacted the base from his hidden observation post near the edge of the solar system. His small ship was equipped with the best sensors that human technology could build. allowing him to watch Council fleet movements without being detected. "Captain, the Council buildup is accelerating," Sam reported. 100 warships in their staging area. "These aren't just any ships, sir. I'm seeing dreadnoughts, planet crackers, and orbital bombardment platforms. They're preparing for total war." Jake felt his stomach tighten. 200 warships was enough. Firepower to destroy every human settlement in the galaxy. The Council wasn't planning to just defeat humanity in battle. They wanted to make sure that nothing remained of human civilization. "Any sign that they know we're watching them?" Jake asked. "No, sir. They're acting like they own the galaxy and nobody would dare spy on them. Their security is actually pretty weak because they're so confident." This was exactly the kind of arrogance that humans could use against the Council. The aliens had been the dominant power in the galaxy for so long that they couldn't imagine anyone challenging them effectively. They treated other species like children who needed to be managed rather than equals who might fight back. Dr. Alex Thompson entered the command center carrying a large metal case. Inside the case was his latest creation, a device that looked like a combination of human and alien technology. Alex had been working on this project for months, using parts salvaged from Council ships and probes. "Jake, I need to show you something that's going to change everything," Alex said, setting the case down on a table. Alex opened the case and revealed what looked like a communications device, but much more advanced than anything humans had built. Before, the device hummed with energy and displayed holographic images of the solar system. "This is a command and control system based on Council technology, but improved with human engineering," Alex explained. "It can coordinate attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously while remaining completely invisible to Council sensors." Jake studied the device carefully. What exactly can it do? Remember all those weapon platforms and hidden bases that Kate's people have been building over the past 3 years? This system can link them all together into a single, coordinated network. When the Council attacks, we can respond as one unified force instead of separate groups fighting alone. This was the breakthrough that Jake had been hoping for. The human resistance had been growing stronger, but it was still scattered across many different locations. If they could coordinate their efforts, they would be much more effective against the Council's superior numbers. "How many platforms are we talking about?" Jake asked. Kate's image on the screen showed her checking her own computer. "We've been busy, Jake. My network has installed over 500 hidden weapon platforms throughout the solar system. Built into asteroids, abandoned space stations, and even some of our own ships. The Council has been flying past them for months without knowing they exist." Jake was amazed. 500 weapon platforms was a respectable military force, especially since they would have the advantage of surprise. But he knew that wouldn't be enough against 200 Council warships. "What about our ships?" Jake asked Commander. Phillips smiled. "That's the best part. We've been retrofitting civilian vessels for the past 2 years. Cargo ships, passenger liners, mining vessels, even some of the old colony transport ships. From the outside, they look exactly the same as before. But inside, they're carrying military-grade weapons and defensive systems." Engineer Ryan Clark appeared on another screen broadcasting from a hidden shipyard in the asteroid belt. Behind him, Jake could see dozens of ships being worked on by teams of human engineers and technicians. "Captain Morrison, we've completed modifications on over 300 vessels," Ryan reported. "The Council thinks they're looking at a bunch of helpless civilian ships. They have no idea that we've turned our entire merchant fleet into a secret navy." Jake began to understand the full scope of what humanity had accomplished during the quarantine. While the Council had been congratulating themselves on containing the dangerous humans, those same humans had been preparing for the war of their lives. "What about personnel?" Jake asked. "Do we have enough people to operate all these ships and weapons?" "Every adult human in the colonies has been training for combat operations," Kate replied. "Miners know how to operate weapon systems. Factory workers can pilot military spacecraft. Even teachers and doctors have learned basic fighting skills. The Council wanted to quarantine a violent species, so we decided to give them what they expected." Dr. Thompson activated his new command system. The holographic display showed the locations of all human military assets throughout the solar system. Weapon platforms appeared as red dots, Modified ships showed up as blue triangles and resistance. Bases were marked with green squares. The display looked like a three-dimensional military map of incredible complexity. The beautiful thing about this setup is that the Council has no idea any of it exists, Alex explained. Their sensors can't detect our hidden platforms because we've been using their own stealth technology against them. Our modified ships look exactly like civilian vessels on their scans. They think they're preparing to attack a defenseless population. Jake walked closer to the holographic display and studied the tactical situation. Humanity was still outnumbered, but they had advantages that the Council didn't know about. The element of surprise was worth more than extra ships, especially when combined with superior technology and desperate determination. There's something else, Kate added. We've been in contact with some of the other alien species that the Council controls. Not all of them are happy with the current situation. Some of them might be willing to help us when the fighting starts. This was unexpected news. Jake had assumed that all the other alien species supported the Council's actions against humanity, but it made sense that some of them might be afraid of being the next target for elimination. How many allies are we talking about? Jake asked. It's hard to say exactly, but at least 3 different species have indicated that they would support a rebellion against the Council. They've been waiting for someone strong enough to lead the fight. Jake realized that humanity's situation was better than he had dared to hope. Not only had humans been preparing for war, but they might have allies. When the battle began, the Council's attempt to isolate humanity had actually created the conditions for a galaxy-wide revolution. When do we expect the Council to make their move? Jake asked. Sam's voice came through the communication system from his observation post. Based on their current preparations, I estimate they'll be ready to attack in about 6 weeks. Bringing in supplies and finalizing their battle formations. 6 weeks wasn't very long, but it would have to be enough. Jake looked around the command center at all the people working to save their species. 3 years ago, they had been ordinary civilians living peaceful lives. Now they were the last hope for human survival. Send word to all our people, Jake. Ordered. We have 6 weeks to finish our preparations. After that, we find out whether the Council made the biggest mistake in galactic history by giving us time to get ready for war. The alarm bells were ringing throughout the hidden human base when Captain Jake Morrison woke up from his brief sleep. I had been working almost non-stop for the past 6 weeks, coordinating the final preparations for humanity's defense. Now, the moment they had all been preparing for had finally arrived. Jake rushed to the command center where Dr. Alex Thompson was already at his station, monitoring the alien communication networks. The screens around the room showed hundreds of red dots moving toward the inner solar system. The Council's invasion fleet had begun their final approach to Earth. How many ships are we looking at? Jake asked, pulling on his uniform jacket as he studied the tactical display. 237 warships, sir, reported Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez from his observation post. The entire Council battle fleet is moving together in a coordinated formation. They're not taking any chances with this operation. Jake felt his heart beating faster as he watched the enemy fleet advance. This was the largest military force that had ever entered human space. The Council had brought enough firepower to destroy every planet, moon, and space station where humans lived. Admiral Zektar's voice suddenly filled the command center as the Council broadcast their ultimatum to all human settlements. The aliens' words were translated by the computer, but the meaning was clear even without translation. The tone was cold and commanding, like someone talking to disobedient children. "Attention human settlements," the Council leader announced. "This is Admiral Zektar of the Galactic Council, Defense Force. Your species has been deemed a threat to galactic peace and stability. You have exactly 1 hour to surrender unconditionally and prepare for relocation to designated preservation worlds. Any resistance will be met with total destruction." Jake looked around the command center at his crew. These men and women had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. They knew the Council's preservation worlds were actually prison planets, where humans would slowly die out over generations. The choice wasn't between freedom and captivity. It was between fighting and extinction. "Open a channel to all human forces," Jake ordered. The communication system connected him to resistance cells throughout the solar system. On dozens of screens, he could see the faces of human commanders, engineers, and ordinary civilians who had volunteered to fight for their species' survival. Commander Kate Phillips appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from her hidden base on Mars. "This is Captain Morrison to all human forces," Jake announced. "The Council has made their choice, and now we make ours. Today we find out whether 3 years of preparation was enough. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for the future of human civilization." Dr. Thompson activated his command and control system, linking all the hidden weapon platforms and disguised ships throughout the solar system. The holographic display showed the true scope of humanity's secret military network. Hundreds of red dots appeared on the screen, surrounding the advancing Council fleet.
Platforms
"Are online and ready," Alex reported. "The Council fleet is moving directly into our trap. They have no idea what's waiting for them." Jake watched as the enemy ships continued their approach toward Earth. The Council formation was impressive but predictable. They were following standard military procedures, advancing in organized groups with their largest ships in the center and smaller vessels providing protection on the flanks. "They're acting like they're on a training exercise," observed Ben Walsh, studying the enemy movement patterns. "No scouts, no advanced probes, no defensive formations. They really think they're attacking defenseless civilians." This was exactly what Jake had hoped for. The Council's arrogance was their biggest weakness. They had dominated the galaxy for so long that they couldn't imagine anyone putting up effective resistance. They were treating the invasion of human space like a routine police action. "Sam, what's the status of their sensor sweeps?" Jake asked. "They're using basic detection systems, sir," Sam replied from his hidden observation post. "Our stealth technology is working perfectly. They can't see any of our hidden platforms or modified ships." The Council fleet continued moving deeper into the solar system, passing within range of the first group of human weapon platforms. These platforms were built into asteroids and abandoned mining stations. It's invisible to enemy sensors but packed with military-grade weapons. "First platform group is in range," reported Alex. "All weapons are locked onto target ships." Jake knew that once the fighting started, there would be no going back. Humanity would either win this battle or face complete extinction. But looking at the tactical display, he felt confident about their chances. The Council had walked directly into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. "Wait for my signal," Jake ordered. "Let them get deeper into our network before we spring the trap." Admiral Zektar's fleet continued advancing, completely unaware of the danger surrounding them. The alien commander was probably feeling proud of his overwhelming force and expecting an easy victory. He had no way of knowing that every asteroid in space station around him contained weapons aimed at his ship's dot commander. Philip's voice came through the communication system from Mars. "Jake, our modified civilian ships are in position. The Council scouts are passing right by us without giving us a second look. Think we're just regular cargo vessels and passenger liners." This was the most impressive part of humanity's deception. Over 300 civilian ships had been secretly converted into warships, but they still looked completely harmless on Council sensors. The enemy fleet was surrounded by disguised human military vessels and didn't realize it. "Engineer Clark, report on ship modifications," Jake requested. Ryan Clark's image appeared on screen, showing him inside the bridge of what looked like an old cargo ship. "All weapon systems are hidden and ready, Captain. Our ships may look like civilian vessels, but they're carrying enough firepower to surprise the Council fleet." Jake watched as the enemy formation moved past the halfway point between the outer solar system and Earth. The Council ships were now completely surrounded by hidden human forces. Admiral Zektar had no idea that his superior fleet was actually outnumbered and outgunned. "Dr. Thompson, are all our systems coordinated?" Jake asked. "Every weapon platform, every modified ship, every resistance base is connected through our command network," Alex confirmed. "When we attack, it will be like a single coordinated strike from hundreds of different directions." The tactical advantage was enormous. The Council expected to fight scattered groups of desperate humans using inferior technology. Instead, they were about to face a unified military force using advanced weapons based on their own technology but improved by human engineering. Sam, any changes in their formation? Jake asked. No, sir. They're maintaining the same predictable pattern. Admiral Zektar is so confident that he's not even bothering with basic military precautions. Jake realized that this was the perfect moment to strike. The Council fleet was at maximum vulnerability, surrounded by hidden human forces, and completely unprepared for coordinated resistance. Every second they waited gave the enemy more time to potentially discover the trap. All human forces, this is Captain Morrison, Jake announced over the communication network. The Council chose to come to our home system to destroy us. They thought they were hunting defenseless prey. Time to show them what humans do when we're cornered and fighting for survival. He paused for a moment, looking at the faces of his crew and the commanders throughout the solar system. These people had sacrificed everything to give humanity a chance at survival. Now it was time to find out if their sacrifice would be enough. Dr. Thompson, activate all weapon systems, Jake ordered. Alex's fingers moved across his control panel, sending activation signals to hundreds of hidden platforms throughout the solar system. On the tactical display, friendly forces changed, from yellow standby status to red combat ready. All platforms armed and ready, sir? Commander Phillips, signal your fleet to prepare for combat. All ships ready to drop their disguises and engage, Jake? Jake looked one more time at the tactical situation. The Council fleet was completely surrounded and had no idea what was about to happen. Admiral Zektar probably thought he was minutes away from an easy victory over primitive humans. This is for every human who lived, who died, and who dreams of freedom, Jake said quietly. Then he raised his voice to address all human forces throughout the solar system. All units. This is Captain Morrison. The Council wanted to see how dangerous humans could be. Let's show them. He took a deep breath and gave the order that would change galactic history forever. All human forces engage the enemy. Fire at will. The moment Captain Jake Morrison gave the order to attack, the entire solar system erupted in brilliant flashes of light. Hundreds of hidden weapon platforms that had been disguised as asteroids and abandoned stations suddenly came alive, firing. Streams of energy at the surprised Council fleet. Admiral Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching in complete shock as his mighty fleet came under attack from every direction. Just seconds earlier, his sensors had shown empty space around his ships. Now he was surrounded by enemy weapons that seemed to appear out of nowhere. Report, Zektar shouted to his officers. Where are these attacks coming from? A tactical officer frantically worked at his control station, trying to understand what was happening. Sir, we're detecting over 500 separate weapon platforms throughout the system. They were completely invisible to our sensors until they started firing. Zektar couldn't believe what he was hearing, according to all Council intelligence reports. Humans were a primitive species with limited technology and no real military capabilities. The quarantine was supposed to be a simple cleanup operation against defenseless civilians. How is this possible? Zektar demanded. Our report said the humans had no significant military forces. Before his officer could answer, another wave of attacks struck the Council fleet. But this time, the weapons fire was coming from what appeared to be civilian cargo ships and passenger liners. The harmless-looking vessels suddenly revealed hidden weapon systems and began attacking Council warships with devastating effectiveness. Commander Kate Phillips watched from her command center on Mars as her carefully planned deception unfolded perfectly. For 3 years, her people had been modifying civilian ships to look exactly the same on the outside while installing military-grade weapons inside. The Council had flown right past hundreds of disguised warships without realizing the danger. All civilian fleet units, drop your disguises and engage at will, Kate ordered. Throughout the solar system, ordinary-looking cargo ships suddenly transformed into sleek warships. Passenger liners revealed rows of weapon ports that had been hidden behind false hull plating. Even old mining vessels turned out to be carrying enough firepower to threaten Council battlecruisers. Dr. Alex Thompson monitored the battle from the human command center, coordinating the attacks through his advanced control system. The device allowed every human weapon platform and ship to work together as a single coordinated force, something the Council had never experienced before. Jake, Our coordination system is working better than I hoped, Alex reported. The Council. Ships can't respond effectively because they're being attacked from too many directions at once. Captain Morrison watched the tactical display as the battle unfolded. The Council fleet, which had seemed so overwhelming just minutes before, was now in complete chaos. Ships were exploding, colliding with each other, and desperately trying to escape the trap they had walked into. Sam, what's the status of the enemy flagship? Jake asked. Lieutenant Rodriguez, still hidden in his observation post, focused his sensors on Admiral Zektar's massive command ship. The flagship is taking heavy damage, sir. They're trying to coordinate a defense, but they can't figure out which targets to prioritize. This was exactly what Jake had hoped for. The Council was used to fighting against single opponents with predictable tactics. They had never faced an enemy that could attack simultaneously from hundreds of different locations while maintaining perfect coordination. Admiral Zektar struggled to maintain control as his fleet fell apart around him. Council ships that had dominated the galaxy for centuries were being destroyed by weapons they didn't understand. It fired by an enemy they had completely underestimated. Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can count, his tactical officer reported. The humans have us completely surrounded. Every direction we turn, there are more weapons firing at us. Zektar watched as one of his largest battle cruisers exploded in a ball of flame. The ship had been hit by coordinated fire from 12 different human platforms, overwhelming its shields and armor in seconds. This was supposed to be a simple extermination mission, not a major battle against a prepared enemy. How many ships have we lost? Zektar asked. 43 ships destroyed, sir, and many more heavily damaged. The humans are using our own technology against us, but somehow they've made it more powerful. This was the result of 3 years of human ingenuity and determination. Dr. Thompson and his team had not just copied Council technology, they had improved it. Human weapons were faster, more accurate, and more destructive than their alien counterparts. Engineer Ryan Clark coordinated the attacks from his hidden shipyard, directing waves of disguised human vessels against the confused Council fleet. His converted cargo ships moved like a pack of wolves, surrounding individual enemy vessels and destroying them with overwhelming firepower. All mining ship units, target the Council supply vessels, Ryan ordered. Cut off their ability to repair and resupply. The old mining ships, now bristling with hidden weapons, swept through the Council formation like deadly shadows. What had appeared to be harmless industrial vessels turned out to be some of the most effective warships in the human fleet. Admiral Zektar realized that his fleet was not just losing the battle, it was being completely destroyed. Less than 30 minutes, he had lost over half his ships to an enemy that wasn't supposed to exist. The humans had turned his overwhelming advantage into a devastating trap. Sir, we need to retreat, his tactical officer urged. If we stay here, the entire fleet will be destroyed. But Zektar discovered that retreat was impossible. The humans had positioned their forces to completely surround the Council fleet. Every escape route was blocked by hidden weapon platforms, or disguised warships. The trap was perfect and inescapable. Captain Morrison watched as the last major Council battleship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The enemy fleet that had seemed so terrifying just an hour before was now reduced. 2 scattered debris floating through space. All human forces cease fire, Jake ordered. The enemy fleet has been eliminated. The sudden silence after the intense battle was almost deafening. For 3 years, humans had lived under the threat of extinction. Now, in just 6 hours of fighting, they had completely destroyed the force that came to kill them. Dr. Thompson checked his sensors to make sure no Council ships had escaped. Jake, I'm reading 0 enemy vessels still operational. Admiral Zektar's flagship was the last ship destroyed. Jake felt a mixture of relief and amazement. Humanity had not just survived the Council's attempt at genocide, they had won a complete and total victory. The species that was supposed to be too dangerous for galactic civilization had proven exactly how dangerous they could be. Commander Phillips opened a communication channel from Mars. Jake, we're receiving surrender messages from Council garrison. Forces throughout the galaxy. Word of our victory is spreading fast, and their remaining forces don't want to fight us. This was better than Jake had dared to hope. The Council's defeat was so complete and shocking that their entire military structure was collapsing. Other alien species that had been forced to serve the Council were suddenly free to make their own choices. We're also getting messages from some of the alien species we contacted before the battle, Kate continued. They want to form an alliance with humanity and help us build a new galactic government. Jake realized that humanity had done more than just survive. They had liberated the entire galaxy from the Council's oppressive rule. The species that had been left in silence had found their voice, and that voice was now heard throughout the stars. Within hours of the battle's end, news of humanity's victory spread to every corner of the galaxy. The Council's reign of terror was over, and a new era of freedom had begun. The aliens who had tried to eliminate humanity as a threat had instead created the very force that would reshape galactic civilization forever. The Council had paid the ultimate price for their arrogance. They had underestimated human determination, ingenuity, and the power of a species fighting for its survival, trying to destroy humanity. They had given them the motivation and time needed to become unstoppable. Captain Morrison looked out at the stars and smiled. Humanity was no longer trapped in silence. They were free, they were strong, and they were ready to build a better galaxy for all species. The Council's greatest fear had come true, but in the best possible way for everyone who valued freedom and justice.